Let's meet some of the key protagonists in this first heat. Johannes Shevdal wearing bib number 4. Flip between the World Cup and the IBU Cup last season. Philipp Navlat, the highest ranked German on the men's side last season, finishing 14th in the total score. Done well in the sprint and Contiolati. And of course the man with the target on his back, Stella Holmlöglide, 3-time world champion, total score winner. And to the side of him, the man wearing bib number 2, Fabien Claude of France, the Olympic silver medalist, who will look once again to add to his list of honours at the Olympic Games this winter. Final stretches, the final introductions done over the PA. The crowd watching on. They packed out the stands yesterday for the junior and para races. Back for day 2, and we cannot wait to get started.
Ja, also taktieren jetzt zu sagen, oh, ich schone mich fürs Hauptrennen, ist einfach nicht, weil wenn ich mich jetzt schone,
you see the ear protections there for Fabien Claude.
And here we go, we're underway at the Loop 1 Festival, the inaugural Loop 1 Festival here in Munich, and the first of 4 qualifying heats. The top 3 going through automatically, and it's a great start for Fabien Claude, who has jumped Stella Holmlöglide to his side.
That's an extremely aggressive start for sure. I think taking advantage of the narrowness and hopefully trying to make an early break and really pulling the whole field apart with this very aggressive first 400 metres.
So Scott, as we go through this early first lap, talk us through some of the nuances, the key differences that these athletes will be experiencing on roller skis. Of course, they will have spent a lot of the summer on them, so it's not the big jump in terms of changes, but what are the differences racing in these conditions?
Well, they will be very familiar with the skis because this is how they train, but you can see how narrow the track is here. And with that in mind, it is going to be a case of jostling for position early. So you can see Fabien Claude is very well aware of that, stretching the field. But those further back have had to move aside from one another just to make sure that they can actually get on the track safely. But it's narrow, and I think that's the key difference here, is that in the roller ski tracks they're familiar with, there's lots of space. But this narrowness is going to play a strategic impact on their races today.
So a very quick start indeed for Fabien Claude. Let's maybe dropped off the pace slightly to allow those behind him back onto his shoulder. It was such an explosive start to this race. He wanted to get out of the blocks well. He had a favourable position, of course, on the grid, and he has the world number 1, the World Cup total score winner, just behind him. First time check we will get will be through the 1 kilometre mark, as just looks to one side and lets the guide come through.
Yeah, he's not wanting to take all of the upfront wind, so taking advantage of Lagride being willing to go past and share the lead.
And so there are the splits at 1 kilometre, with Stella Holmlöglide just being invited around the outside of Fabien Claude, Philipp Navlat in 3rd, with Johannes Shevdal down in 4th. Remember, the top 3 going through automatically, and then we have the 3 fastest lucky losers. And there is some nuance into who will take those lucky losers spots. If one of the 4 of Germany, Sweden, Norway and France do not have representatives in the final, then their athletes, the fastest of their athletes, will be promoted into the final 15. Although, of course, Scott, when you look at the way these heats have been seeded, it does seem incredibly unlikely that that rule may come into play.
Absolutely, and it's nice to see that the top nations have been split amongst the heats, so that there is a maximum of 2 per heat, and that will certainly factor in the end result, but they're now entering into the shooting phase.
So into the range we come, Stella Holmlöglide leading by 0.4 of a second from Fabien Claude. So he will drop down into the prone position. first shooting stage of the Loop 1 Festival here in Munich. Starting quickly, it's a miss for René Zachner. 2 misses now, twice around the penalty loop. He'll go. Stella Humler glide starts on a miss. It's a bad day to start for René Zachner. It'll be 3 times round. Terry Seppler gets away clean. So does Victor Brandt. Fabien Claude, Philipp Navrat as well, all going well and avoiding the penalty loop, and that does shake things up after just 1 lap.
Wow, yeah, what excitement, and you can see here how busy the penalty loop is going to get. But for those sharpshooters, Victor Brandt taking a surprising lead initially up front.
And he does come out with a 1.4 second advantage over Fabien Claude. And this is just how things can chop and change, not just in these shorter formats, but of course across the sport as a whole, which keeps it, well, ever so exciting.
And the stakes are so high for just 2 visits to the shooting range, and you can see already the implications of those misses. That is going to be very hard to reclaim on this very flat terrain. So being up front now certainly has a disproportionately large advantage coming into the stand than you would expect even in a typical biathlon on snow race.
Yeah, when you look at the differences coming out of shooting one, as we look back at the shooting of Stella Humler-Glide, 13.5 seconds he trails Victor Brandt owing to just 1 miss. And so round we go again, the stunning Olympic Park here in Munich. What a venue it is, hosted so many important, historic, iconic events, not just in the world of sport, but of course music and fashion as well over the years. And the people of Munich take a real pride in. And now something different this time round.
It's of course impossible to measure exactly how much a penalty loop costs in a race like this, but you can see that those who have missed 1 are some 15 seconds down, and then for those who have missed 2, some 30. So it looks like you can expect about 15 seconds for a penalty loop, which is just a little bit more than were they to use spare rounds. Of course, spare rounds, you don't know if you're going to hit the target, so there is that additional element at stake.
So it is the man wearing bib number 7, Victor Brandt, the 26-year-old from Sweden. Broke into the top 10 on a World Cup race for the first time in the pursuit in Oslo. And he did improve on his ski speed last season as well. He leads the athletes through 2.8 kilometres with Fabien Claude too far behind him. Saint-Germain as well, someone who's hotly tipped, of course, for great things in the future. He's in third with Philipp Navrat, just outside 1 second behind. There's now the pack who have missed 1 come through. And we will have some wait to see those who have missed more than the 1 shot in the first visit to the range.
So exciting about this format is that the stakes are just so high, with so few going to be selected to go through into the next round. That is, of course, possible that somebody or a heat could be so incredibly fast that all of the lucky losers could come from that heat. But I wouldn't say it's likely by any stretch. So it does really mean that if you're not in the top 3 right now, you should be very afraid, and you need to hit those targets in the upcoming stand shoot.
There's very little margin for error as we see our leading pack of 5 come into shooting 2. No shoot done, so this will be the stand. Of course, just 2 shooting stages in this super sprint format. And on position 1, Victor Brandt. Quick to his first shot in the prone position. Will it be the same here in standing? It is. Miss for Maxime Germain. For Fabien Claude, Victor Brandt has stayed perfect so far, and he is perfect on the day as well. A brilliant start for the Swede, who is away fastest. And disappointment for the German though. 3 misses, 3 times around the penalty loop, and that is Philipp Navrat well out of the qualifying places.
Like Ride doing fantastic there to get himself forward with that clean 5 for 5, but not as fast as Victor Brandt. And you saw the graphic there on the right with some exceptionally accurate shooting despite what would have been some serious fatigue. As we see there, Germain, USA, in 4th place currently, skipping up the hill.
And so it is Victor Blunt. Seppala, who is the man behind him, the highest ranked Finnish male last season on the World Cup. 2.2 seconds separate him from the leader. Stella Holmberg 10 seconds back, and then 3.1 the difference between Stella Holmberg and Maxime Germain, who did improve a lot last season. Across the board improvements and a 12th place finish in the sprint at the World Championships. Here is the shooting of Victor Blunt.
Absolutely fantastic shooting there. You could see the trembling of the rifle. It wasn't perfectly steady, but the entry to the target was very disciplined, very controlled, and that's what matters most in stand shooting.
And so here are our leaders, and it is Tero Seppala, whose shooting we're seeing just there, and there were a couple of nervy moments with 2 of those shots.
Yeah, 2 very edge shots there, unlike Victor Brandt with that really impeccable shooting. That group is something to envy, even in prone shooting for some people, not on the World Cup perhaps, but those who are beginning in biathlon. So fantastic accuracy under a great deal of pressure.
And so it is Tero Seppala pushing the pace. Tucked in behind him is Victor Brandt. Here is Stella Holmberg, who wears bib number 1. Shoed by Maxime Germain. He needs to keep pushing here. The World Cup total score winner.
Absolutely, he definitely has a fight on his hands with Germain. He'll be hungry to close that gap. But for Brandt and Seppala, it's not totally necessary to keep up such a high intensity. They'll be able to, at some point throughout this lap, ease off the pace just a little bit. They've got a final to think about later on today.
You can see the gritted teeth there of Stella Holmberg as he comes through just inside 10 seconds behind the pace of Tero Seppala. Maxime Germain, even though he is in that 4th place position, which wouldn't guarantee him automatic qualification, he'll be looking to push on in terms of his pacing on the skis as well. Try and give him the best shot of one of these lucky loser positions.
Well, he's managed to maintain that 3 seconds perfectly on Lagride, and you can see from the facial expressions of Lagride, he's suffering. And these courses do have an unusual way of punishing biathletes because there's no rest and recovery. It's just full-on intensity from the start.
And they'll hear the hum of the music and the noise from the crowd as they're back on the purple carpet and making their way around into the stadium. They'll be welcomed home. The top 2 in Heat 1. And what a spectacular way to get things started here at the Loop 1 Festival. Tero Seppala across the line first and automatically into the final. Alongside him, Victor Blunt, with perfect shooting on the day from those 2, with Stella Holmberg just 1 miss. He's followed across the line by Maxime Germain, who will have to wait and see if his time is enough. Fabien Claude made to pay for those 2 missed shots. Of course, Johannes Dahle-Chevdal in a very similar position as well, and as Philipp Navrat comes across the line as well. It can all change, Scott, in the blink of an eye, and there'll be plenty of those athletes going in the later heats and the women as well who are watching on and starting to pick up some of the nuances. The coaches as well, I'm sure, feeding stuff back in just how those coming later on will approach this race.
Well, yes, you can see that already there are some strategic components about the racing. We saw some fast starts, we saw very fast shooting, and the benefits that you can get from drafting. So all of these factors are going to be noted and for those future heats taken forward. And we saw that for Fabien Claude, he didn't actually manage to reap the benefits of his early dynamic start.
So all the athletes in the first of our 4 heats home across the line. And a really intriguing way to start the day. three going through automatically. Tero Seppala, Victor Blunt, and Stella Holmler-Glide with a smile on the face of Maxime Germain. And let's just take a look. You mentioned it there. The quick start, of course, from Fabien Claude, but made to pay for his missed shots in the end.
Absolutely, and it's a really cutthroat sport here, and certainly this format, with there only being 5 prone and 5 stand, it really puts the emphasis on the shooting. And it's almost as they've come across the line, it's very much in line with their misses and hits, with only a small bit of variation from the very fastest skiers. So if you go the perfect 10 for 10, they cross the line first. If you miss just one, you cross the line second, third, fourth. So it's very much in accordance with your accuracy and the range where you're going to finish, quite likely as these races and heats unfold.
Safely through is the World Cup total score winner from last season. Alongside him, Victor Blunt. There's some really impressive shooting today. And, well, it's not out of the realms of possibility that Fabien Claude's time could be enough. We will just have to wait and see as to how the heats that will follow on from this one, how quickly the athletes make their way round. As Scott said earlier, 3 lucky losers, 4 heats, and if you have one exceptionally fast heat, all 3 of those lucky losers could come from that one heat. A big performance from Tero Seppala, who really bided his time through the first lap. It was shooting 2, which changed everything. And this is the position you want to be in, Scott, isn't it? That of Tero Seppala and Victor Blunt, and you can add Stella Holmler-Glide in it, but particularly the first 2 across the line. Their job done, nice and early, go and cool down, recover, and they are bound for the final.
Absolutely, and that's a relief, especially given how many big...
And so, we are very quickly on to Heat 2. Eric Perrault going in this one, what a season he had. As we look very briefly down the start list, who catches your eye in this one, Scott?
Martin Oldal. He's just so fast, and he shoots so incredibly fast. We've all seen the reels and the TikToks and the shorts. He can get a first shot down in sub 7 seconds, and that's crazy. It is definitely going to be hard to do that under this intensity, but I've said that before, and he's managed it under incredible physical intensities and got the targets down. So I think he's one of my favourites, but next to Eric Perrault, it's going to be a challenge.
So Sweden already have one man in the final. Can Jesper Nalin make it too? To the side of him, his compatriot Martin Ponsaloma. Struggled through last season. The 30-year-old did manage to end on somewhat of a high just before the break, with the podium in the short individual in Pokluka, finishing 3rd. Eric Perrault, though, what a season he had. 3rd overall, still only 24 years old. He is the future of this sport. Solo world champion as well for the first time in Lenzerheide in the individual, taking bronze in the pursuit as well. And when you talk about futures of the sport, Martin Oldal bursting onto the scene last season at senior level. And, well, those pink poles of his have become quite iconic. What a battle we have in store for us, we hope, between the 2 who are side by side at the front. Eric Perrault shone at the early part of last season, along with a lot of the French team, with the way that they were able to come onto the World Cup circuit with such precision in their shooting. And I'm sure this year there will be maybe the odd Guinness World Record in terms of quickest time for a first shot. It may end up going Martin Oldal's way.
Yeah, certainly.
Got officially signed off last season.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's so unexpected to be able to take the rifle off your back, get into position, load a magazine, all of those factors combined, and then to hit the target in less than 10 seconds is impressive, let alone less than 7.
We speak a lot, of course, around their retirement, of how the Boer brothers shaped the sport, and Martin Oldal already leaving his mark. very early stages of his career. And so we're away in Heat 2 for the men in the Loop 1 Festival. Eric Perrault and Martin Uldal side by side. Just tucked in behind them is Martin Ponsaloma, and Jesper Nylén has made a good start as well, wearing bib number 19. In comparison, Scott, though, to the first of our heats, we haven't got someone jumping off the front. Maybe lessons learnt from Heat 1.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what the strategic benefit would be of going super fast at the start. Of course, there is a very sharp left-hander, and it is very narrow, so you do want to be clear of any trouble, particularly ahead of an Olympic season. You don't want to be having a fall now. Even getting a bad graze would be really inconvenient. But perhaps it's this corner right here where the advantage of having a much more spread out field really comes into play.
It is a really tight bend there, and of course then goes into this narrow section with the advertising boards and the barriers on each side. As they come round for their first loop of the lake. 3 laps, 2 shooting stages, starting in prone, following up by the standing.
Matthew Chronicle there at the back, just clinging on to the back of the field. And Uldal so comfortable and relaxed up there at the front, leading what seems to be a very controlled pace. And I would say controlled is the word that I would use for Uldal and Perrault. Both of them are so disciplined, so focused, and when it comes to their shooting routine, it's rigid. They are very consistent. They do the same thing every time, and when it works, it works very, very effectively.
I remember reading some excellent articles. Were interviews with the French coaching staff on the shooting side, saying their key aims going into the Olympic cycle was to improve on the shooting, make that accuracy as consistent as possible. And we saw, of course, through last season just how good they can be. So this is the 1 kilometre checkpoint that the athletes are coming up to now. Martin Uldal will be the first to break the line, with Eric Perrault just tucked in behind him. Within a second back is Jesper Nylén, Longer of Belgium, the 33-year-old who had 3 top 15 finishes on the World Cup last season, including a top 10 in the short individual in Contiolahti. He's just trailing. But all still tightly bunched together, all within 5 seconds. The 14 going in this field. And great, as you mentioned the name of Matthew Chronicle, of course, Scott, to see so many of the smaller nations represented across the board in these heats and on the women's side as well.
Yeah, and a testament to the biathlon family ethos that is always talked about and always followed through on by the IBU, managing to support smaller nations, bring them up, and really foster this culture of mutual support. And it works. You've managed to gain, or the IBU has managed to get such a fantastic field of biathletes from across the board here, and that will only continue to grow the sport as the years go by.
Greece, Australia, Great Britain, Brazil, amongst those nations represented here at Loop 1 Festival. And into shooting 1 we go. Back in the range as the crowds build behind. 6 seconds, just over the 14 in this field. Separated by, as they drop down into the prone position, it's quickly down into the position for Eric Perrault. Uldal taking his time. Misfoot, double answer. Ian up with 2 from 2. Kutchmara as well. Thierry Longer has gone 3 from 3. Eric Perrault is perfect, 5 from 5. It's a miss for Uldal. And once again, this pack has been shaken up. And Uldal will be once around the penalty loop.
Oh, fantastic shooting there from Matthew Chronicle, 5 for 5. That's absolutely excellent from the Brit. And now this was a slower heat than the previous, 9 seconds down in terms of the speed to the first shoot.
And that, of course, will all be fed back to the athletes, and particularly for those who are just outside the top 3. Eric Perrault leads the way as they come out of shooting 1. Kutchmar in second, just half a second behind the Frenchman, the leader. And Vidmar of Slovenia coming out 5.4 seconds behind, but with perfect shooting. And Didier Bionat's the other man who shot clean, alongside Matthew Conical, of course, as well.
You can see Perrault there, his left eye just shutting very briefly before he pulls the trigger.
So Martin Oldal, 15.2 seconds down. How does he need to approach this second lap now, Scott? Because he cannot hold back.
Well, I would say that with 15 seconds down, it is possible for Oldal to claim back a whole 7 seconds in shooting alone, but he has to hit the targets, and of course that's not a given by any stretch. But assuming he is able to hit the targets, he is able to claim back 7 of those just from the shooting, and the remaining would have to come from a very quick final lap, indeed, and relying on some of the others to miss at this point.
Well, just saw there, it's great that we're getting the graphics of the target, of course, that new for this season, and there is an app that was advertised, of course, yesterday. If you head over to the Biathlon World Instagram, advertised by Nicholas Hartwig, that you can watch along with the shooting and the targets on your phone, and we will, of course, bring you a glimpse of those once the athletes leave shooting. But it was a very lucky second shot for Didier Bionat, just sneaking in and tripping the target. So this is now, as they come towards it, with Eric Perrault leading, wearing bib number 16, the 2.8 kilometre mark.
And Perrault will be very relaxed, very controlled, and I suspect we'll see a very consistent rhythm between every single shot in the stand-shoot visit to this race. Klitschmar
still keeping good pace. He's actually just gained a fraction of a second. Of course, the Olympic silver medalist in the sprint in 2018. He has an excellent record in these shorter formats.
Oldal dropping to 17 seconds, losing time as opposed to gaining.
And great to see the support already building around the course here in Munich. The only ticketed section of the course is the main stand behind the range. Everywhere else is accessible to members of the public. All the way down and watch biathlon right on their doorstep, and bringing it to the people of Munich as we come into the range for the second time. Klitschmar leading, and it's Eric Perrault who has just slowed slightly, allowed the Czech athlete through to come into the standing shoot.
This is what they've been doing all summer long, preparing on roller skis, coming into the range with a very high heart rate, and now they have the introduction of severe pressure as Perrault manages to get his first shot down but misses the second. The third goes high left for Perrault, and he misses the final shot. Not a good day for Klitschmar either, now missing 3 shots, and Bionat, he manages to get his first down, fails to get the second, and so far there are no clear shooters, with Ponsaloma now potentially seizing the opportunity but failing, with Langer the first to go 5 for 5.
Well, Thierry Langer taking advantage of those ahead of him falling. A miss for Martin Oldal as well, and it is the Belgian Thierry Langer who will make his way out of shooting 2 and around the final lap in the lead. Perrault, with 2 drop shots, does trail, but only by 3.9 seconds, with now Anton Vidmar of Slovenia up into third. Martin Oldal, well, he's not too far behind. He has work to do, though, if he's to secure his place in the final and in the top 3.
Yeah, and Vidmar, he's going to have to get tucked right in behind Perrault and really take advantage of the slipstream, because he does not have the pace on the roller skis as Perrault does.
Well, just as we were talking about in that first heat, Scott, how important accuracy is, and that was a real show of how everything can change. He had a little bit of luck with his 4th shot, just on the side Thierry Langer, but missing 1 in his first shoot, clean in his second, and now leading the way in the second heat of the Loop 1 Festival here in Munich.
Absolutely, and Oldal, he actually didn't shoot as fast as I had anticipated. He's currently 4th fastest with Perrault being the fastest, and that's with 17 seconds. But Oldal 20 seconds for his shoot, but it was an accurate shoot and it got him back into 4th place. So in with a chance of closing the gap and potentially either getting a lucky loser or getting up there and getting past Vidmar for a spot in the top 3.
Although you look at the rate in which Anton Vidmar has found his way onto the back of our front 3, and as the shot widens there, we still cannot see Martin Oldal. And just how short these laps are, 1.8 kilometres. There is, with every push, the increasing possibility that Martin Oldal will fall outside of the top 3 here.
Well, Perrault there sensing that the pace at the front just wasn't quite fast enough, deciding to get ahead of Langer, who has done a really fantastic job up till this point. But Perrault really asserting the dominance of the top 3 and keeping the gap between them as a trio and the hungrily chasing Oldal, currently in 4th.
Yeah, he hasn't been able to make much of a dent into the time of those ahead of him. Shaving off 0.9 of a second, but it won't be enough with just 400 metres to go. And it will be Martin Oldal who will fall out of the top 3, and we'll have to wait and see. But Scott already mentioned it wasn't the fastest first lap in comparison to the first heat that got underway. And with now Eric Perrault trying to push the pace a little bit more on this 3rd and final lap, you do fear, obviously you have to wait for confirmation of the times at the end, that this wasn't quite as quick as the first heat.
Yeah, 10:35 is the time after at the 4.6. That was from Seppala, and here we have 10:55. So it's not actually as far apart as I had anticipated, but still, there is a significant gap.
And with only 3 lucky loser positions, the gap needs to be as small as possible. So Eric Perrault, Paul Vidmar, and Thierry Longer across the line. This event, with just 2 heats in, already throwing up surprises. No one clean shooting in heat 2. A slightly slower heat. Not a huge amount in it, but it does mean that it is advantage heat 1 in the race for lucky loser, with Martin Oldal of Norway finishing 8.1 seconds behind that time of Eric Perrault.
Quite an incredible performance there from Matthew Chronicle, 38.1 seconds behind, and that's with 1 miss, so a great job there from the Brit.
He spent a lot of time this summer training at altitude and has been collecting athletes to train with across along the road, including a group from the IBU Cup coming over to train with him in France, of Norwegian youngsters, and I think, having spoken to him this week, that he's enjoyed having so many different nationalities to train around. They'll give different perspectives, and particularly when you come from a smaller nation, it's important to use those connections as and when you can.
Yeah, take advantage of every opportunity, and I think that's really the culture among the lower nations. They're given a lot of opportunities, they take them, and they reap the benefits from them.
So here's a look back at the start with Martin Oldal deciding to lead it out, but it wasn't the flying start that we saw from Fabien Claude, but still falling outside of the top 3. A slower first lap, but a real lack of clean shooting. Two misses for Eric Perrault. It was a disastrous final shoot from the man who was just trailing him and doing so well. Klitschmar of Czechia, and such a great record in these shorter, sharper races. Unable to make his results stick though, with a disaster in the final shooting. And a nod of the head, raise of the fist from Eric Perrault, safely through to this afternoon's final, with Anton Vidmar and Thierry Longer to join him from Heat 2. Well, we've seen two very different races already. That's our final athlete from Heat 2. Rolls across the line and challenges today out on the course for Michael Tordev of Bulgaria.
Bit of a surprising length of time behind, and I think with two misses we can expect there to have been something wrong for that gap to have opened up.
So here's confirmation of the results from Heat 2 of the Super Sprint qualification here at the Loop 1 Biathlon Opening Festival in Munich. Eric Perrault, Anton Widmer and Thierry Lange through to the final automatically. We will have to wait and see when the official times then become published. 2 heats in. So here is the third, and this a really intriguing battle. The penultimate heat with Quentin Fillon-Maillet on pole position to start things off. For Björn Sörlem alongside him, just a Strela going in this one as well, Vítězslav Hornig. Well, this is a real stacked field, Scott, particularly when you look at the experience of the athletes in these heats.
It absolutely is, and we have Olympic medalists and we have youngsters coming through alike, and Lucas Hofer, really one of the most experienced, as we can see him on the screen now. Really revolutionised putting the rifle on the back early on and shooting fast, and it's so interesting to see that generation give way to the likes of Oldal.
Of course, a home Olympic Games approaching for Lucas Hofer, who's represented Italy at 4 games so far. As we make our way round the start line, Vítězslav Hornig, the World Championship silver medalist in the relay. A really impressive medal in Lenza Heider. Just the Strelo, two-time World Championship bronze medalist in the relays. When you look at the trophy cabinets, the medals that these athletes have amongst them, and no more than this man, Quentin Fillon-Maillet, total score winner, 2-time Olympic champion. Golds in 2022 in the individual and pursuit, and alongside him, Björn Sörlem, his first World Cup total score, top 10 finish overall last season, and the first World Cup win in the individual in Ruhpolding, of course, not too far away from where we're based today in Munich. Well, his good record on German snow translate to the concrete here of the Olympic Park. DNS, unfortunately, for Apostolos Angelis of Greece. His World Cup debut almost a decade ago, and we hope to welcome him back to the World Cup circuit this winter. So the anticipation building, the front row, Fillon-Maillet and Sörlem. An intriguing clash with just 3 automatic qualifying spots for the final up for grabs in this penultimate heat in the Loop 1 Festival.
You can see Sörlem there getting out fast, getting ahead of Quentin Fillon-Maillet, who looked perfectly willing to let him go past, with Hornig of Czechia getting close on his heels, trying to get up front as quickly as he can.
It's certainly worth keeping an eye on Vítězslav Hornig in this race, the 26-year-old. Huge season last season. Of course, we've already mentioned the World Championship silver medal in the relay. Only once has that performance been bettered by a Czech team at the World Championships. But also 3 top 10 finishes on the World Cup circuit, and a huge improvement in particular on the skis. So keep your eyes out for the man wearing 34, Vítězslav Hornig. He could, when you look at the way that this race and the heats before have panned out, he could be a big contender in this one. Tucked in down in 5th at the moment, with Sörlem leading the way. from Fiormaillet.
Such a beautifully effortless technique from Surum at the front. It really does look like he's just cruising along there, and I can assure you it's at a very quick speed. That would punish the vast majority of humans on this planet, but made to look so easy by these biathletes. Quentin Fiormaillet tucked right in behind him and taking advantage of his slipstream.
When you talk about the technique, Scott, it was one of the huge improvements. He did have improvements across the board in general on the World Cup, of course, last season, Surum, but when you look at his ski speed, it was truly impressive the way he managed to step up. How much of that would just be general fitness and how much of that would be really making sure that technique's on point?
Technique becomes the 1%, like the Team Sky philosophy. At a certain point when you are so good, you can only make marginal gains on technique, and those typically come from your technique degradation over the course of a race. So as you get to the very back end of the race when you're fatigued, how good is your technique then? Because that's when you're going to make the biggest losses or gains relative to the rest of the field. But I would say that the general fitness and the new philosophies of training are the big movers. They're the 5 to 10%, and not taking as many rest days is one of those philosophies that's beginning to spread across the biathlon and cross-country universe.
And you can hear the clattering of the poles against the concrete. Of course, they won't get as much of the purchase through the poles as they would on snow. There's Quentin Fiormaillet leads this train of 13 athletes in this third heat around the lake, and he will shortly arrive on the purple carpet going in to their first shooting stage. All eyes on the accuracy of these men leading the way as they come in to shooting one. Fiormaillet leading the way with Vivian Surum 0.4 of a second behind him. Just Strelo in third, and within a second Fiormaillet.
Quick drills, dropping the poles down onto the left leg. Therefore,
start for Strelo. That's for Bogholter. Miss for Quentin Fiormaillet. Strelo going incredibly well. It's 2 misses for the Frenchman. He'll be twice around the loop at least. Just that Strelo has really impressed, and he'll break away. Dovzan going well. Hornig as well, 5 for 5. Malachek 5 for 5. Surum twice round the penalty loop as well with Fiormaillet, and that has shaken things up no end.
wow. What a surprise. And this is what we love to see, is we've got such unexpected names already at the very front of this field, with some of the bigger names now really under a great deal of pressure to ski fast and to shoot very straight in the stand. Surum, 2 mistakes, 23 seconds down.
And we are still waiting for Quentin Fiormaillet with his 3 misses to come out of the penalty loop.
Wow.
He does now, and he's 36.8 seconds down. Wow, everything has changed in the blink of an eye, and here are the 5 men who have really been able to capitalise. That's the shooting of just a Strelo. Perfect, but not quite quickest. That was Mihar Dovzan of Slovenia. Real stable season last time out, finishing with almost identical stats to what he had the season before in terms of his ski speed, his shooting across, of course, standing and prone. And he has made an excellent start. Here are the current lucky losers. And of course, you can see there that does not include Martin Uldal. So all of the lucky losers so far coming from heat number 1.
Yeah, that little bit of a faster first lap has actually had an impact. Not much, but the shooting accuracy, of course, in heat 2, we saw nobody going clear. And that certainly has an impact. Just that 15 seconds on a very short, sharp race like this.
Well, I will be so intrigued to see how, having watched these heats, the women come out and approach their qualification rounds later on today. Brief look over the shoulder from Justa Strelo as they come through into the 2.8 kilometre mark. And it is the German who leads. Dobson just in behind. There's Hornig as well. 1 second back, Oscar Andersson, the 23-year-old, represented Sweden at 4 Junior World Championships and spends his time competing on the IBU Cup. This impressive first lap and first shooting stage, holding his own against some of the most experienced names in the game.
Accurately, but also fast from Andersson. 16.7 seconds was his shooting time in prone. If that isn't a digital error, that is, of course, but I don't think it is. It was just incredibly fast and incredibly accurate. It's almost as if he didn't need to breathe between each shot to get the targets down.
When you talk about marginal gains in the sport, we've already seen, of course, Martin Årdahl failed to qualify for the final, but with the attention that his style of shooting is getting, you wonder whether we will see more of these, maybe the younger athletes as well, come through and try and find those marginal gains in the range. And it is Andersson who comes into shooting 2 in third now, with Jonas Malacek to fourth, and it is Dobson who has dropped down just in terms of his timing coming through. 3.6 seconds behind the leader, Justa Strelo.
You're going to hear the roar from the crowd, presuming Strelo hits the targets.
Thanks for Andersson. Strelo. You can hear the roar. Hornig going very quickly indeed, and he's very accurate so far, and it's 5 for 5, and Vítězslav Hornig is away. Now goes Justa Strelo. 5 from 5, much to the delight of the German crowd. A miss for Malacek. So I'm trying to fight his way back into it, but he has a miss as well, and that will be him out of this competition. So coming out of shooting 2, we just have 2 athletes for now, and it's Vítězslav Hornig, who had a huge season last season on the World Cup circuit, and we pinned early on in this race as one to watch, who is 2.6 seconds ahead of Justa Strelo, with Dobson of Slovenia 13 seconds almost down.
Quentin Fillon-Maillet not managing to make a dent on his early error and has paid the price, but great performance there from Strelo. Nice composure, managing to get all of the targets down despite the pressure of 9,500 stadium fans or shooting range fans screaming with every hit, something the Germans are familiar with and train with. But look at the accuracy of Strelo there. Or, I mean, they're hits, but only just for 3 of those shots, right on the edge, a hairbreadth away from being a miss.
But he is one of just 2 athletes with a perfect shooting record. And that's, well, we haven't seen very often, just a handful. There's Lucas Hofer with his 2 misses, of course, coming from the first. And very much better in the standing shoot, Scott.
Yeah, for sure. And he's got the strategy, or he has the experience to know how to position himself and handle this current situation he's in, because only one of this group is going to go through just by virtue of the heats, but then everyone else is fighting for a lucky loser position, and Hofer, being at the front, is definitely in the optimal position to make a sprint, and there's not much space to get around should somebody try and make a move, as we're seeing.
Well, there was a lot of looking to one side, looking over the shoulders as the course just concertinaed slightly. Gets really narrow as they come round towards the time check, and that is now at the 4.6 kilometre mark, and across the line first is Vítězslav Hornig, who is having a great day on the roller skis. Strelo not too far behind him, just 1.6 seconds down. And, well, it is all chopping and changing in this chase pack. They know that there is only one space available, and it is now Malacek, Jonas Malacek, the 24-year-old who is pushing the pace and has made his way to the front. There is hardly anything, though, to separate that group. And in that group as well is Fabian Söhlem.
Yeah, and Marrakech there, we can see making a move, managing to hold that line where Hoffer's dropped back, just a little bit too fatigued. And
so look at this. It's Fabian Söhlem coming around the outside. He has had to fight back and dig so deep, but he now takes up the charge in the chase pack. It's all settled at the front. It is done and dusted. But looking backwards, only one of this now duo, almost three, will find their way into the final, and it is the Norwegian who is really pushing things. He is desperate to ensure that it is not the end of the road for him.
Marrakech refusing to give up just yet, and doing well to cling on to the Norwegian.
And across the line they go, and Söhlem has just done enough. He had to fight so hard on that final lap, and that is the first time in this competition that we've seen someone drop 3 and still find their way into the automatic qualifying places.
Yeah, fantastic ski speed there, managing to get the fastest time overall, just in terms of ski speed, with 9:49, with Dali Shevdal 9:57, second fastest ski time from the first heat.
But you really have to give the men across the line in first and second their plaudits. Vítězslav Hornig and Justa Strelo with clean shooting, 10 out of 10, perfect, and that really gave them some breathing room just to ease down at the end, while Fabian Söhlem having to go the opposite way 3 times around the penalty loop, and we're looking at around 13 seconds for one of the penalty loop visits. He has had to do so much work on a very short and technical course to ensure that he found his way onto the automatic qualifying places there.
What a fantastic top 3 there. Not one that I would have written down in advance, and again, one of the reasons why biathlon is just so fascinating, to have such an unexpected top 3, and what makes this race so exciting. Viomaye taking a little bit of time to get off the line there. I think the part of his strategy not to rush it, but really surprisingly 39 seconds back at the finish line. So whatever approach he took into this race, it wasn't as effective as we've seen from him before.
We're just taking a look at the difference between this heat that we've just seen finish and heat 1, and there may just be a possibility that 4th place in this one could sneak in. We'll wait for confirmation. Of course, 3 lucky losers for the 3 fastest non-qualifiers.
What a nice feeling that must be, to look behind you before the finish line, knowing that you have secured your place in the final.
Du wolltest es, du bekommst es. 3 mistakes, but still such a great fight. How do you feel?
So confirmation of the results from heat 3, just one more heat to go. We did say the action would come thick and fast, and we weren't lying here at the Loop 1 Festival. There's a confirmation there. Vítězslav Hornig, Justa Strelo, Fabian Söhlem, the top 3 going through automatically. And I thought this has to be one of the most fun lineups that you could imagine. Tommaso Giacomelli, Emilian Jacquelin and Campbell Wright. This is really one of the reasons why we love Loop 1. Seeing these 3 in particular, I mean, you can pick out a couple of other names, of course, through this. Disappointing to see Simon Eder not starting, but this could be a real exciting battle.
Unpredictable. Again, you have Emilian Jacquelin, one of biathlon's most loved by athletes, and that's because he is audacious and he brings a lot of drama, a lot of tactics, and he is alongside 2 others who are similarly excellent, with Campbell Wright really coming to shine last year with silver medals at the World Championships, a top character as well as biathlete.
When you look at Emilien Jacquelin, of course, in particular, in this lineup, the 30-year-old, well, he'd not won a sprint race on the World Cup until Kontiolahti at the start of last season. And his 2 wins on the World Cup last season were both in sprints. So maybe someone who's just learning to love the shorter format a little bit more. Isak Frey, great to see him on the start line here. Someone who, in terms of Norwegian up-and-coming talents, has been hotly tipped for quite some time. He wears bib number 50. As I think they're just shuffling everyone round with the absence on the start line of the very, very experienced Simon Eder. Roman Rees spent a lot of last season on the IBU Cup, but bookended his season on the World Cup.
Well, 9,500 of your fans shouting your second name. That must bring with it a little bit of intimidation there.
Podruchny of Ukraine. After the Ukrainian team, he came third in Nove Mesto in the relay last season. Impressive day, and well, tucked in behind our front 2, Campbell Wright, under 23 Globe winner. In front of him, World Championship silver medalist now, Tommaso Giacomelli, and to the side of him, 2-time World Champion Emilien Jacquelin. This is a really stacked heat, full of character, full of talent. And of course, it is the final opportunity for these athletes to confirm their place in today's final later on this afternoon. Ensuring his watch is in the right place. Emilien Jacquelin.
Campbell Wright looking so relaxed, just scanning the crowd.
And he is such a character. And he'll have plenty of fans in the crowd as they are over the start line in the 4th and final heat of qualifying at the Loop 1 Festival here in Munich. And it is a quick start indeed for Tommaso Giacomelli, who has left everyone really in his wake. He's made his intentions clear in the first 50 metres of this race.
Yeah, and Emilien Jacquelin having a little stumble as he set off across the line. I think that was just a user error as such, but there are a few other obstacles to contend with. You can see the purple carpet that's been laid out of various parts of the course, and the transition from concrete to that is certainly an experience they need to get used to, practicing over the course of the days leading up to these races.
So it is. Tommaso Giacomelli wears 46, Emilien Jacquelin wears 47, Campbell Wright wears 48. As we follow along with the back of this pack, and Phoenix Spark of Australia, the 19-year-old who made his World Championships debut in Lenzerheide, based out of Oslo. 3 World Cup starts last season. What a stunning shot that is. Beautiful location. A thrilling day of racing, which we are flying through. This our final heat. 3 laps of 1.8 kilometres, 2 shooting stages, first in the prone, second in the standing, and just 3 automatic places left up for grabs. And we have seen already so many of the pre-race favourites either drop out of the final, or possibility of reaching the final. And we've had some nervy moments as well for Björn Thurlum in that last heat, really having to fight back.
Something about the drone footage there giving the perspective of calm and relaxation, but as you can see up at the front, Giacomelli is pushing the pace, and we'll get a look in here at how that compares to other heats and to the second. It's the same as 2, 3 and now 4.
As they come through the 1 kilometre mark, Tommaso Giacomelli leading, Campbell Wright, Emilien Jacquelin just stumbling on the start line, but is still within a second of Giacomelli, the Italian leader. Isak Frey well up there, holding a good position as some of the boards there just get caught in the poles.
It's interesting that Heat 1 was a full 5 seconds faster, just up to the 1 kilometre mark, than any of these other heats. As we can see, Emilien Jacquelin deciding, you know what, let's have some fun. And this is it. This is why we love watching Emilien Jacquelin, because he brings such a unique approach to every single race.
He really wears his heart on his sleeve. Last season, watching him anchor the French relay team, the passion that he put into those battles, as they're welcomed into the main stand here, into the range. With well, this is the biggest difference that we have seen going into shooting one of any of the 4 heats so far, with 4.1 seconds the difference between Jacquelin and Jacquemelle. You can see the difference as he gets down into the prone position, just how ahead of the rest of the crowd he is. And he hits the first target. And the second, misses on the third though. Capillari also has a miss, Jacquemelle has a miss, Campbell Wright is slow to get started, no one as yet has gone 5 for 5, but now Isaac Frey does. Florent Claude in a good position, can he make it 5 for 5? He does, alongside Campbell Wright, and so a messy first visit to the range in Heat 4 of 4 here at the Loop 1 Festival.
Absolutely, and now the penalty loop getting quite congested, but Isaac Frey doesn't need to worry about that as he dances over the hill through the post-shoot 1 checkpoint.
Which is 22 years old, Isaac Frey, a young Norwegian who has a really impressive trophy cabinet already. 4-time gold medalist at the Junior Worlds, 4-time European champion, including in the pursuit, and this year in the 20-kilometre individual.
Emilien Jacquelin paying a slight price for the increased intensity into the shooting range. When normally biathletes will slow down, he opted to speed up, and that will raise the heart rate, make the rifle less steady, and decrease the amount of control, but only missing 1 target and still managing to come out in pretty much in line with Isaac Frey, not too far behind him.
And there is the shooting of Isaac Frey, like so many of the target cards that we've seen before. One just slightly close to going out. Very similar situation for Campbell Wright. That was his first shot, and four of the others then as close to centre as you can hope to get.
The overtaking
side by side, yeah. It's really risky move, that.
So tight, and it's definitely not conducive of overtaking. And just look at the barrier. There's those little legs that stick out, and it's not much, but all it takes is to clip one of those and you can take a really nasty tumble. So each one of these biathletes will be absolutely aware of that danger or that risk, and it's a small one, but it's there, and acting accordingly, not wanting to jostle too much for position in those narrow stretches.
You can see there as well, you can just discern the difference as they go through that section, as they will do again in the next lap. The drop off as well, there's a slight curb on the left hand side, so the athlete's just needing to be careful of that. It's Isaac Frey who leads our group of 4 up to the second time check out on the course, and that is at 2.8 kilometres. So Isaac Frey, Campbell Wright, Claude and Emilien Jacquelin. And here now comes the chase pack, led by Podruchny. There is so much experience, and he'll know just to keep his cool now. Still no sign through 2.8 kilometres though of Tommaso Jacquemin. We expect that he will be the next one through, but he was trailing by 36.2 seconds, and that has now dropped to 38.8 seconds. And well, you can see there, Scott, that things have just gone from bad to worse on the second lap for the Italian. Yeah,
he skied fast on lap 1, and he is unfortunately not going to be able to close that gap. We did see Sorum come back from 3 misses and regain the position to one of the top spots, but no, it would take something truly miraculous, I would say, at this point for Jacquemelle to make a late comeback. He needs everyone else ahead of him really to drop shots here, and well, maybe more than one when you look at the time that he is behind, and he needs to shoot perfect as well, which of course is a huge pressure when you've dropped 3 on the first. So into shooting 2 they come. Isaac Frey, Campbell Wright, Florent Claude and Emilien Jacquelin, the leading group of 4,
But of course, only 3 automatic qualifying places. How will things look after our second and final shoot?
Rapid setup there from Isaac Frey, and he gets his first shot away quickly and accurately. The first 2 go down. There's a miss for the third, but alongside him are a lot of misses. Jack Alain missing 3. Only 1 from Isaac Frey. Claude, he needs to get this next target. He does. That's 4 out of 5. And now the question falls to whether anyone in the latter stages can come back and get 5 for 5.
Well, it is wide open now, because dropping shots as well was Campbell Wright. They're coming perfect. Isaac Frey out, and he has a significant margin as we wait to see the distance between him and Florent Claude. It's 7.8 seconds. Well, quickly round the loop was Campbell Wright though, and he hasn't been made to pay too much for just the 2 shots that he's missed. Productiony has kept his cool and has jumped up to 4th.
And Jack Amel doing very well, getting 5 for 5, making me eat my words, and managing to get just 24 seconds behind. But it's a lot of work to do with a lot of hungry biathletes all searching for that lucky loser spot.
Well, it's interesting to see the spread of shots there from Isaac Frey, Scott.
Yeah, miss low right, and 9 out of 10, nothing to scoff at. Florent Claude, another miss. It was low on the side of the right hand. Missing right, as it happens.
Well, this is a good lap so far for Patrick Jakob of Austria, who has jumped up the order and really isn't too far behind Campbell right now. It'll be interesting to see when they come through 4.6 kilometres just what the difference is, but looking there, he really sprung out of that second shoot and was moving along with a huge amount of pace. This is Isaac Frey, the leader, who's making his way around the bottom of the lake. A look over the shoulder, and well, there will be a look that gives him a lot of confidence, because he's opened up a big gap on Florent Claude, who will want to ensure that it is a great day for Belgium today. They already have 1 athlete through to the final. Can they make it too? Here's Campbell Wright, who's fighting behind to ensure that he's not caught by a group of, as you put it, Scott, very hungry biathletes who know that this is their last opportunity.
Yeah, and if you compare it, just leaving shooting number 2 to the other heats, in heat number 1, that was 8:21 seconds to get to the end of shoot 2. For heat 3, it was 8:25. Heat 2 was much slower, sorry. And now for these guys, they're about 6 seconds behind that average, so have to do something special to get a lucky loser spot now.
Well, here is Tommaso Giacomel, who has done so much hard work, but with 400 metres to go, just over, will it be enough?
You can really see Florent Claude there fighting, struggling. It's not easy without any recovery on this course to maintain this level of intensity, frequency. And you can see the chase is really coming in very hot, and Giacomel managing to get from 24 seconds back to 19 seconds back.
But job done, and job done very well from Isaac Frey, who looked very, very comfortable and cruises through to the final, holding his own against some athletes who have a lot more experience on the top level of biathlon racing. Of course, he comes with excellent pedigree. Claude and behind Campbell Wright and Giacomel, well, as much as he pushed and pushed, unable with the distance that he had left, it was just not enough to make up the lost ground.
A little sprint finish from Ribley there on his own accord without any competitors, but that was a really intense comeback there from Giacomel, getting all of the targets down in the stand shooting, finishing just 8 seconds back off the lead. I used the word miraculous earlier, and I somewhat regret that because he managed to do something quite spectacular on the last lap.
And just rolling his way around the purple carpet is Emilien Jacquelin. Crosses the line with Iliev to one side. Not to be today.
Jacquelin looking a little bit uncomfortable, is just gesturing there with a back arch that maybe there was a little bit of discomfort, and it does look, the way he's bending over there, that he might have an uncomfortable lower back. And yes, okay, for sure, there's something wrong with his back. That remains to be seen. So Jacquelin appearing to have some kind of pain or injury.
And a slight wince, wasn't there, as he held his back, and there's a look back at the stumble, and you wonder if it just jolted anything there, Scott.
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, yeah, it's hard to know. I am familiar with the back pain that if you enter a race having not done much by the way of intervals, you can get very sore lower back, and that is as a consequence of the rifle being heavy. But I suspect he has done a lot of intervals, and that would not be the pain that he's experiencing now.
Well, great to see that expression from Florent Claude. The joy on his face, and he does cross the line in second, meaning that Belgium will have two athletes in the final. But it was all about Isaac Frey in heat number 4, stamping his place in the final in impressive fashion, and that heat being one of the slower heats overall, meaning that we won't have any of the fastest losers coming from heat number 4. Now the atmosphere building as well as we approach the start of the women's heats. We'll bring you confirmation of course, who has made the final 15 for the inaugural Loop 1 festival. After we look at the confirmation of the results, the final results from the men's super sprint qualification heat number 4. Isaac Frey with a dominant victory over Florent Claude. Campbell Wright coming through for third, with Tommaso Giacomel just outside of the pace, and it seems that won't be enough for the Italian up for that final. The 15 athletes making their way through: Tero Seppola, Eric Perrault, Vyacheslav Hornig, Isaac Frey, of course, who we've just heard from, who really seems to be enjoying his time out on the roller skis today. Victor Brandt kicking us off in excellent style, coming from heat number 1. The fight back from Vebjørn Sørlum. Just how much has that cost him in terms of energy? He'll, I'm sure, be straight off to recover ahead of the final later on today. Campbell Wright